Have you ever felt completely certain about something and then found out you were wrong the whole time? Not a little wrong, completely, embarrassingly, 100% wrong. That feeling has a name, and understanding it might be the most useful thing you learn this week. I'm Detective Maboy. Case is open. Here's the setup. Every single day, you make hundreds of small decisions. What to eat, who to trust, whether that email sounds sketchy, whether that deal is too good to be true. And you make most of those decisions fast, almost automatically. Your brain isn't lazy. It's efficient. It learned over millions of years of evolution to save energy by creating shortcuts. Psychologists call these shortcuts cognitive biases. Think of them like default settings in your brain's operating system, installed before you were born, running in the background whether you like it or not. Now here's what nobody tells you. There are over 180 documented cognitive biases. 180. That's roughly one bias for every bone in your body. But today, we're only investigating the ones that are quietly running your life right now. The ones that explain why smart people make dumb decisions, why you remember bad experiences more vividly than good ones, and why your opinion feels like a fact. First clue. Let's start with something that affects every relationship you've ever had. It's called confirmation bias. Here's how it works. Once your brain decides something is true, it starts collecting evidence that proves it's right, and quietly ignoring everything that says otherwise. It's like a detective who already decided who the killer is and only writes down clues that fit. Imagine you meet someone at a party and get a weird vibe. From that moment on, every awkward pause, every slightly odd comment, every strange expression gets filed under, "See, I knew it." Meanwhile, the 20 kind things they said? Gone. Your brain didn't register them as relevant. Confirmation bias isn't just annoying, it's expensive. Studies show it's one of the leading causes of bad investment decisions. When people believe a stock is going up, they seek out news that confirms it and unconsciously skip the warnings. One famous experiment in the 1960s by Peter Wason gave people a simple number sequence and asked them to find the rule. Nearly every participant only tested guesses that confirmed what they already believed and never tried to prove themselves wrong. But here's the thing, confirmation bias alone didn't explain everything I found when I dug deeper, because there's a second force working alongside it, and it's even sneakier. Second clue. This one has a name that sounds almost too dramatic, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and the data behind it will make you rethink every confident person you've ever met, including yourself. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger ran a study at Cornell University. They tested students on logic, grammar, and humor. Then they asked each student to estimate how well they did compared to everyone else. The result was wild. The students who scored in the bottom quarter, the ones who genuinely performed the worst, believed they were above average. Not just a little above average, way above average. Meanwhile, the students who actually scored highest, they assumed they probably did about the same as everyone else. They underestimated themselves. What Dunning and Kruger found is that incompetence doesn't just cause poor performance. It also prevents you from recognizing poor performance. You don't know what you don't know. It's like trying to proofread in a language you don't speak. You can't spot the errors because you don't have the tools. This is why your most confident coworker isn't necessarily your most competent one. And here's the uncomfortable twist. This effect isn't limited to other people. Research suggests that in areas where we have only beginner-level knowledge, almost all of us overestimate our abilities. That means right now, there's at least one topic where you're more confident than you should be. The question is, which one? But even knowing all of this, the confirmation bias, the Dunning-Kruger blind spot, I still wasn't satisfied. Because something bigger was connecting all of it. Something that explains why humans, as a species, keep repeating the same mistakes across centuries. The revelation. The connecting thread between every cognitive bias is something called the availability heuristic. And once you see it, you'll notice it everywhere. Here's the principle. Your brain judges how likely something is based on how easily an example comes to mind. Not based on actual data, not based on logic, based on how vivid and recent a memory is. Here's a classic experiment to make it concrete. People were asked, which kills more people per year, shark attacks or falling vending machines? Almost everyone says sharks. The answer? Vending machines kill roughly 2 to 3 times more people annually in the United States than sharks do. But sharks have dramatic news coverage, blockbuster movies, terrifying imagery. They're easy to recall, so your brain rates them as more dangerous. Now scale that up. This same mechanism is why people fear flying more than driving, even though driving is statistically about 95 times more dangerous per mile. It's why a single news story about a crime spike in your city feels more real than 5 years of declining crime statistics. Your brain isn't reading the data. It's reading the emotional intensity of your most recent memories. And here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. These 3 biases, confirmation bias, Dunning-Kruger, and the availability heuristic, don't operate independently. They form a loop. The availability heuristic feeds your brain vivid, emotionally charged memories. Confirmation bias filters everything else out. And Dunning-Kruger makes you confident that your filtered, emotionally distorted picture of reality is accurate. Round and round it goes. The researchers who study this call it motivated reasoning, and it's not a sign of stupidity. It's a sign of being human. The good news is there's a way to interrupt the loop, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. Ask yourself, what would have to be true for me to be wrong about this? Not, am I wrong? That question your brain will answer with no, almost automatically. But what would it look like if I were wrong? That tiny shift forces your brain out of confirmation mode and into genuine investigation mode. It's the one tool that actually works. Case closed. Let's recap. 1. Your brain uses shortcuts called cognitive biases to save energy, and they run automatically whether you notice them or not. 2. The 3 most powerful ones are confirmation bias, which makes you collect only the evidence you want. The Dunning-Kruger effect, which makes you most confident exactly where you're most ignorant. And the availability heuristic, which makes vivid memories feel like facts. 3. They form a loop that feels like certainty, but is really just a very convincing story your brain is telling you. Here's the real takeaway. The goal isn't to become perfectly rational. That's not possible. The goal is to notice the loop just long enough to ask one better question. Awareness is the only antidote. You walked in here thinking you make most decisions rationally. You're leaving knowing that almost nobody does. And now you're one of the few people who actually knows what to do about it. Case closed. Detective Maboy, signing off. If you want to keep solving cases like this one, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next investigation.